Hello class. In this video we're going to look at the scanner object and how we can use that object to be able to get data from the user into our program. Now we're going to be able to use it to get integer data or floating point data and eventually string data and character data. And we'll be able to use that data in our programs to do the calculations to satisfy the lab requirements. Now in order to use the scanner object we have to use an import utility. And I'm going to type that here, and it's simply import java.util.scanner. And this is telling the compiler to bring in the code from the java.util libraries, specifically the scanner code, so we can use that in our program. This is predefined for us, so we do not have to write the actual code to do the inputting from the keyboards. We just need to reference that library so we can use the methods that are available to us. So the first thing we need to do is we need to define a scanner object. And that looks something like this. Scanner object equals new scanner system.get. Now, you can use this line of code as is and create a new scanner object called SCNR object, or you can give it any other name you'd like. But the first part here, scanner, and everything from the equal signs to the end must stay the same. This is what's defining the name of the object that we're going to use in our code and how the compiler is going to treat that as a connection back to the keyboard so we can get our input. Later in the semester, we'll see how we can use the scanner to also collect data from files in addition to the keyboard. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to use integer and double for the two variables that we're going to be retrieving from the scanner. And we're going to declare those variables now. And we'll define an int variable, int var, equals 0, and double var equals 0.0. Now that we have our variables declared and initialized, we can go ahead and try to get data from the scanner. Now, an important thing to note from the scanner is that when you write a line of code to retrieve input from the scanner, you need to be aware of what that data is coming in. And let me demonstrate. I'm going to write a line that's going to get an integer variable from the scanner. And that is simply a line of code that looks like this. So what this is saying is assign to the variable int var the next integer from the scanner object. Now that's a little misleading in that if you're typing in a bunch of data and you do not have an integer as the next piece of input, this code will fail. So you need to be aware of what you're reading from the user. So for the sake of this, and at this point of the class, we're just going to make sure that we have the right kind of input at the right time. There are other methods that can be used with the scanner objects to verify what that data is, or we could do some kind of type conversion to make sure we get the data in the right format. For a double var, the code is very similar. It looks like this. And you can imagine the similar code for the float type, or the long type, or the Boolean type, or the short type. They all have a similar next object. Okay, so how we have it written now, when this program runs, it's going to collect an integer first and a double second. So the input from the user must be provided in that order. Integer first, double second. I'm going to run my program. And you'll notice here's my blinky cursor. I didn't print anything to tell the user to enter anything, which is not a good programming practice. But for now, we'll go with it until the next example. So I know from the code that I want to input an integer. So I will type in 3. And then for the second number, I want to double, 3.5. It ran just fine, no errors, no output. So why don't we create an output statement? System.out.println int, and we'll print the int value, and then we'll do a similar line for the double. We'll call it double, and then we'll add in double bar. And actually, let's make it a little smarter this time. Let's put some instructions in for the user. Please enter an integer and a floating point number. So now, if we run this program, we'll get a line of instructions. We'll be waiting for the user to enter 2 values, an integer and a double, and then we'll print it out. So let's see what that looks like. Great, there's the input. I'll type in 6 and 8.32. And there's my values. So I said before that the data has to be in the correct order. Let's rerun the program, but let's put it in backwards, 8.32 and 6. So I have the double first and the integer second. So you might be thinking that the scanner object, the line of code here, will see that it's going to read, it should read the 6 and then the 8.32, but it doesn't, because what's happening is, imagine this cursor, oops, can't do that. Imagine the cursor here, and this is where the scanner is going to read from. So if the 8.32 was first, that is the first value that gets read. The scanner isn't going to scan the entire line to see what that data type is. It's up to us to be sure that we're processing it correctly. And then I'll put the 3 in here. And if I run it, we're going to get an error. Input mismatch. So if you see input mismatch exception, that's an indication that the scanner is reading trying to assign the wrong kind of value that it just read. Similarly, let's say I just put an 8.32, but I leave the integer, or let's put the integer first. Let's say I put an 8, but I leave the integer var out. Well, it read the integer, and now it's waiting for a double. So you don't have to put them all in one line, but you do have to enter them all for the input to be satisfied. So just to reiterate, the scanner does not do type checking when it assigns the values. It reads the first token that it can get from the input buffer and assigns it to the variable that you have. If the types don't match, you're going to get an error. We need to be able to deal with that and make sure the user is instructed to enter the right information, integer and floating point. Later on in the semester, there are a myriad of other scanner methods that can check to see what the data type is. And we'll get into that a little later on when we get into Boolean variables. We can write code to check to see if this is an integer or if that is a floating point, and then do the appropriate action. But since we haven't gotten to that coding yet, we're going to hold off on that piece. So this is just a brief introduction to show you how you can use the scanner to get your values in your code. I've gone ahead and added some comments just so you can have it as a reference. One other thing to point out in your labs, that if you're getting an error, you're not getting full credit because you put in a instructional statement like this, simply just comment it out and rerun the program when you're ready for final grading. I also have up top, I put some additional comments for the scanner import. Okay, that's about it. You can use this in your labs to be able to read from the scanner. Oh, I should put another comment in here. Create a scanner to read from keyboard. There we go. Okay, now it's complete. Now it's complete. Okay. So yeah, feel free to use this, reference it. I will post a copy of this sample code as well into the week 2 area of the Brightspace. That's it for now. Good luck, and as always, reach out with any questions. Bye.